No. So what happened roughly a year ago was, I would say, just trying to gather this up into
It's okay. Take
some
your
Take
time.
kind
your
of,
time.
so a couple of things that kind of all cop into one. So I read that article like I discussed, and then a whole lot of stuff came in rushing in at once. It was flow state for me, I would suggest. So when I was a young man and I first started as an apprentice at a CDJR store, um, I tell the story regularly. There was 5 apprentices. About a year after I was there, we became 4 apprentices, and I didn't know how much that moment affected me. And that moment was coming into work on a Monday morning to have my boss tell me that one of my very bestest friends at the time that I knew very little about, a young man who had the world by the short and curlies, who could have anything that he wanted from anyone that he wanted because he was good looking, charming, intelligent, witty, fearless, had hung himself.
Mm.
I'm so sorry to hear
And
that.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like it hit me really hard then. It hit me really hard then. But I crawled through the rest of that day. Everybody in the shop did. Like we all worked. Like the 5 of us were tight.
Mm-hmm.
The whole shop was tight. Even my shop foreman, who I've talked about, we were tight. We finished the day. That is item 1 that you need to think about. Why I'm doing what I'm doing. Mechanics, for the most part, doesn't matter what happens. We still finish the day. 2, my grandfather, the defining person in my life, passed when about 23, so it's 15, just about 15 years ago now. We did everything together. Like my parents divorced when I was 2, so I was raised by him. He was a police chief. He was in public service for his entire life. When he retired, and he needed to retire because he had a heart attack at a police chief conference and had a triple bypass, he retired and got bored and went back into public service as a counselor for the local town. So he spent his entire life in public service giving back to his community. I didn't realize that was important to me until a year ago. And I realized that the person who helped build me spent his entire life doing well for others,
Sure.
fixing things, because my great grandfather owned a dealership from 1938 till 1983. The month before I was born, they closed the dealership, ironically. All the brothers in that family were mechanics to some degree. So I realized that a year ago, I need to be giving back to my community. And realizing that I spent the last 20 years in a community that have provided so much for me, that's the community that I need to provide back to.